are familiar with the lunchroom atmosphere, where some people, I don't mind helping them with their pronunciation of words and what a word means and that sort of thing. But when we get into a lunchroom, and I think I'm in the lobby of the United Nations, where they seemingly think that the language they ask me about and they're trying to learn, they totally ignore and talk away in their own language. I find that somewhat ignorant, and I wish some people would get it through their heads. If you're in mixed company, learn to, speak in a language that everybody in the room can understand.
That's a really interesting comment, and I think an interesting issue, and I'm fascinated in what my guests will tell me about that.
I mean, obviously I wouldn't use the word ignorant. I put myself in their shoes. If I were in a country that didn't have English as their first language, I would just gravitate to other people that spoke English. That would be my comfort level. That doesn't excuse them from not being considerate of those around. In what we do at Mosaic, we do try to educate them about workplace communication, which includes using the appropriate language when other people are around. If they don't speak your language, try to use a language that others can use as well.
Now, but what if you're not talking to those people? I'm thinking, I get in an elevator, and 3 people get in the elevator, and they start speaking Korean or Chinese. Should that bother me? I mean, in any way, they're not talking to me.
Well, for myself, that doesn't bother me, especially being in a city like Vancouver. For me, I don't even think about it. It's just part of the cultural, pardon my use of the word, mosaic of the city, and I enjoy it. There may be some people who aren't accustomed to that, and they don't feel comfortable, and it's something that we try to do also, is try to educate people that we need to embrace that difference. We also have to educate the newcomers that they need to be sensitive to say the English speakers. They would feel left out if they couldn't understand when they're speaking Chinese or Korean. So we try to be sensitive from both directions.
Jennifer?
I agree with Larry. I think that empathy needs to be demonstrated on both parties. So to our caller, imagine if you were in another country and there were other English speakers. Would you speak in that language of that country, or would you speak in English? So you have to sort of understand that person's perspective and be in their shoes as well. And for the people who are speaking their own language, demonstrate empathy that maybe that other person feels left out.
Now, the caller was talking about like a lunchroom, too, not an elevator. I mean, an elevator might be completely different. If I only speak English. So if I'm in Paris, or I'm in Rome, and I'm with 2 of my friends, I'm going to be speaking English. Yeah. It's the only language I know. And I'm talking to my friends, not the other people in the elevator or the hotel lobby. 604-280-9898. Joe, hello.
Oh, hi, Bill. One thing I'd like to say, I don't think the government, like local or federal, they're not helping out the situation, because, for instance, at City Hall, Vancouver, you get income tax forms or any information from them. It's all in these languages. So we're actually catering to them to keep in their own language, and they're not having to learn English. So I think it's doing a disservice.
Well, that's interesting, because, and again, there are 2 sides to every story, but Larry, we talked about that. We now have Chinese language radio stations, we have Indian language radio stations, we have newspapers in those languages. Does that discourage people from learning to speak English?
Well, it makes it more convenient for them to not have to learn English. It's a balance between having people learn a new language and perhaps give up their old language. We always encourage people to embrace their new language so that they can communicate and benefit from the Canadian culture, but at the same time retain their language, their culture, so they can, again, share that with those around us. My own parents, we're talking about this off air, actually came first to Canada, to a very, very small town where there were only 2 Chinese families. We left quite young, and I often look back at that and said, would we have been better off if they had stayed there, been forced to learn English? And the answer I always find myself saying is yes, they would have been better off in some ways. They would have been able to get involved in more of the Canadian culture because they spoke English. But at the same time, if they did that, I think I would have lost a lot of my culture, because I would no longer have the benefits of the language and the Chinese culture.
More of your calls when we come back.
Christy Clark here, inviting you to don your CKNW pink shirt one more time in 2010. Join me for the Vancouver Pride Parade August 1st. CKNW will be broadcasting live, and I'll be in the parade. So join over 500,000 spectators and show off your pink shirt. Help spread our Stop Bullying message right alongside the Pride message of educate, liberate, and celebrate. For more info, including the full parade route, visit vancouverpride.ca.
You just won $1,000 a week for 25 years on a Set for Life 10th anniversary ticket. What did you do when you won?
I screamed.
I spilled my coffee.
I had my boss.
Well, it would be quite a surprise. Where were you when you scratched your winning ticket?
On the ferry.
At a coffee
in
shop.
Kamloops.
At the grocery store.
So what are you going to do with your first $1,000?
Travel.
Get engaged. Hire a personal chef.
Buy a bike.
I'm so jealous. Set for Life is giving away 10 top prizes in BC, and there are still 7 remaining. Pick up your chance to win $1,000 a week for 25 years today. Must be 18 plus to play. Know your limit. Play within it.
Hi, honey. Just heard on the radio, you can earn up to 10 times air miles reward miles when you fill up at Shell and shop in store. So don't waste time and gas driving to the supermarket. Get poppin' snacks for the barbecue at Shell.
Treats for me. Chips and dips, too.
You heard that? Yeah, I know. 10 times. Till September 12th. We'll shop at Shell all summer.
Fuel up your car and yourself. Earn up to 10 times reward miles. Shell. Get the most out of every stop. Exclusions apply. Details at participating locations.
Drivers, listen. The Honda Checkered Flag event is back. Now listen to this. Get a $500 gas card when you lease or purchase any new Honda Civic. Lease or finance your new Civic now from as low as 0.9%. And get summer driving off to a great start with a $500 gas card during the Honda Checkered Flag event. We race, you win. See your newspaper, your BC Honda dealers, or visit bchonda.com for details.
That HST tax. Taxman isn't giving you a break. But Boston Pizza will, with $10 BP bundles. Save by creating your own 3-course meal for only $10. We even got hit with an 11% humor tax. So we couldn't afford to make this commercial funny. $10 BP bundles. Valid Sunday to Thursday, dine-in only, at participating locations. See in-store for details.
Be inspired by some of BC's greatest at the 42nd Annual Banquet of Champions presented by Canadian Direct Insurance, September 16th at the Vancouver Convention Centre. BC's most prestigious sports banquet is the formal induction ceremony for the BC Sports Hall of Fame. As hockey's Joe Sakic, football's Sean Millington, rugby's Spence McTavish, the 1994 BC Lions football team, and many more are inducted into the BC Sports Hall of Fame. Tickets and more at bcsportshalloffame.com.
Will government changes affect your home purchase, mortgage renewal, or real estate investment plans? Are you wondering how to protect yourself from rising interest rates? I'm Angela Calla, and every Saturday night at 7 o'clock on CKNW, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the ever-changing world of mortgages. Find out how you can save money on your mortgage this Saturday night on The Mortgage Show.
The Mortgage Show with Canada's accredited mortgage professional of the year, Angela Calla of Dominion Lending Centers. Saturday nights at 7 on CKNW.
Meet David. Yo! David loves to swim. David also has a great memory, like when he remembered, call before you dig. So David called BC One Call to find buried pipes before he dug his new pool. When he broke ground, David struck gold, bought a yacht, and now swims in Spain. Does David thank BC One Call for his wealth?
You could say that.
Always call BC One Call before you dig. 1-800-474-6886. 1-800-474-6886.
Jennifer Madigan is Director of Learning at the L2 Accent Reduction Center, and Larry Chan is a Manager at Employment Programs with Mosaic. You posed an interesting question as we were coming off air. Where does the responsibility lie for what? Understanding, improving language skills?
Where does the onus lie for comprehension of the individual? So when somebody speaks with an accent, where does the onus lie in terms of, is it the individual or is it the listener? So my answer to that is I think both parties need to demonstrate empathy again. As an employer, and a lot of employers are making a change, they're trying to understand what different sounds some people might make. So we have what are called sound boundaries, and those sound boundaries will expand depending on how much exposure you have to certain sounds. So a lot of employers are trying really hard to understand the differences. For example, I had a client who said she worked for neighbor relations. She worked for the government for neighbor relations. And I thought, the government is helping neighbors get along? Actually, she worked for labor relations. So if you know the difference between N and L, that Mandarin speakers will make that difference. You can start to begin to understand some difficulties.
604-280-9898. Will, good morning.
Hey, Bill. Sorry, I just calling back from my second line.
Much better.
I got one question for the guest. Initially, I thought for the language you only needed to practice. So I came to Canada 7 years already, and I forced myself to only watch English channel. And for my job, I do need to speak English every day. However, right now I found I only can improve the language skill to a certain level. And after that, it's kind of impossible to get a perfect or whatever the skill. So why is that? Because I tried my best, to try to improve, but looks like I got stuck.
A lot of people think that if they take more English classes, then they can improve. But a lot of times, if you don't know what your mouth is doing or how your mouth is moving, it's difficult to fix certain sounds. So what we do is we teach like the anatomy of the mouth and how the airflow moves. And by understanding that, you can actually help yourself and fix yourself. But if you don't know what your mouth is doing...
But Will was a good example. I mean, he's very easy to understand, but he does have an accent. Mm-hmm. So... would you be able to work with him?
Yes, definitely.
So that he would have less of an accent?
Yes, I can teach him how to move his mouth in certain ways.
Very interesting. Because you have said that having an accent can be detrimental in terms of progressing up the job ladder.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of people come to you.
Yes.
I thank you both. Very interesting. When we come back after the news headlines, Wim van der Zam is here. You know what that means. Your opportunity to talk about any gardening topic, and we'll do that in just a few minutes.
Hey everybody, ENC